I did all that bit of an introduction stuff. I might as well introduce myself. Hello there, my name's Leonard Sultana. I run a website called the Convention Collective. I also run a thing called the Englishman In San Diego, which allow me to attend the San Diego Comic Con, attend panels, and eventually get into panel hosting myself. I also do a live stream, which is now getting a revamp in the next month or so, where I get to talk to interesting and talented creatives. Shout out. At the end of the day, what has allowed me to do is talk to some incredible people, and that's why I'm incredibly grateful to be up here on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Jock. Right, so like I said in a little bit of an introduction, I think you've done enough panels in your time, sir.
Right.
How many panels have you done over the last decade or so? I mean, is it like every convention you go to, there's going to be, at some point, there's going to be you on a stage talking about comics?
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, I've got no idea.
You've done a fair share. So, as
I've never been asked that before.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I want to try and, I mean, you've had what was your first comic? What got you into comics questions? You've had those. So let's talk about Jock 2025, 2026. Let's talk about where you are now, what you're doing, and also how you're doing it. So we'll start with your creative process. Because when I've seen you doing your live streams, and when I've seen you doing your artwork, and when I've seen you draw in person, it's anything from thin pencils, these massive bricks of a black marker, which suddenly create these incredible artworks. What are you using nowadays? There it is. There it is. I mean, I have seen you go at a piece of art paper, bang, 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 bit of highlighter on it, and suddenly there's this masterpiece of Batman on it. Is that your kind of go-to art work? Is that the instrument tools at the moment?
Yeah, they haven't changed. I've drawn every single page of comics with one of these. It was a rotary art pen. They stopped making them about 3-4 years ago, and I was getting a bit concerned because they do the nibs get a bit loose and they do wear out. And I put on Twitter that does anyone have any? And long story short, I got sent I think about 19 pens from around the world, from peers and artist friends, but also complete strangers, and they last about a year each. So
you've got yourself a stock for now.
Until I retire.
Until you retire.
No, for the last time I've like 3 years, I'm 53 now.
You never know.
Yeah, so it hasn't changed. I still love drawing using anything that makes a piece of mark.
Because you also, I mean, you do a lot of manipulation when it comes to digital as well. And also
sorry?
Digital.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about something that I saw in a recent blog post of yours. How has digital helped your artwork style, and how has it changed it? Has it freed it up? Has it made it feel a little bit more constrained? How's it kind of affected how you do what you do?
It's just another tool, really. I don't think about it too much. It frees it up because you've got more opportunities. I still draw comics with traditional pens, and I tend to do my full work digitally because it's easy to edit and change. But I started out painting years and years ago, and actually Photoshop gave me the opportunity to kind of bring us up painting quality to colour, but with the benefit of being able to manipulate as much as I want, which is really useful. But even that, I sort of try and make it look sort of organic and have texture, and hopefully it moves a little bit rather than just being like flat digital.
When it comes to the writers, publishers, do you get much pressure to kind of move more into digital production? If anything, because the workflow seems to be
the workflow is digital, right?
Yeah.
You scan everything in and you upload it. I mean, when I started out at DC, I was FedExing pages to America, and that's just how it used to be done. But yeah, no, I mean, the workflow is digital, but it doesn't matter how you work. And that's not really their concern.
Fair enough. Okay. I also saw on a recent blog post, which I referred to, which, by the way, if you've not been or subscribed to Jock's
What blog?
I'm sure you've got. Haven't you got a blog or a newsletter?
Nope.
I've seen something with your name on it.
I'm on Instagram.
Okay, I'm sure I saw something with your name on it. Okay.
Do you think I should be looking into this?
I think you might have, because there was a headline on there which said how digital sculpting and has helped me adjust, work with my character creation and my page creation. Has that done anything with that? No, that's not with your. We are definitely going to have to look into this. It looks like there's a guy called Jock who's got this web, is it a fan page about you?
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Honestly, it's not
Fine by
completely
me.
news to me.
There is. Okay.
Is it good?
It seems all right. It's well written, and there's very few spelling mistakes, and it's got a lot of ox in there and guy, so it seems accurate. Okay. In that case, then
I've learned something today.
well. I was going to dive into this a little bit later. We might as well talk about it now because I was going to talk about your blog post. But what about your digital footprint then, in terms of reaching out to your fans? Because you are active on Blue Sky, putting some artwork out there. Is that something that you feel is necessary in 2020?
No, I think anyone from our generation, it's not really a natural space to. I'm not up for promoting myself at all. You know, I'm lucky that because people seem to like the way I draw, that I have people that are interested. So I only ever try and put up work that I'm not working on or work by other people that I admire, and that's it. I've got no interest in sort of doing live streams and saying, hey, it's me. You know.
Because I saw a work balloon where you did that. Did a live stream on that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's not something that appeals.
Not at all. No, the opposite. It's you know, I would love to see peers and artists that I enjoy, you know, talking about what they do. So that's why I do it. I mean, hopefully it's of interest to someone, but it's not. For me, all my energy goes on my work, and that's it. Okay. Yeah, the other stuff is like, you know, I don't know. You know, I was going to say necessary, but it's not even that. You don't have to do it at all. But I understand that's the way the world is now. But yeah, the more I see, I don't really want to see someone's face. I want to see their work.
Sure.
Basically, you know, that's sort of where I'm at, and so it's not something I chase.
Understood. Okay. In terms of then that relationship with your audience and that kind of framework, how's the relationship then with the publishers? Do they kind of want you to get more face forward?
Yeah. Sometimes I did a book with Comicsology Originals, which is owned by Amazon, and the publisher was a good friend of mine, and he was very keen for us to sort of do that stuff. But you know, if you want to do like a studio tour and like sort of like a MTV Cribs, just no. But obviously they're investing in your work, and so we did this in pieces. You know, like, I get it, but yeah, again, it's just not something that I push and. DC, for example, we don't really. It doesn't seem to be something that they contemplate.
What is the relationship with DC at the moment? What's the working relationship? What's because we've been hearing a lot of stories about how the industry is doing. I mean, sales are doing well. Absolute Batman and the Absolute lines are selling fantastic well. Your contribution obviously has helped in that regard, which I will be getting. Scroll on a little bit later for that. What's been the relationship with DC in getting yourself on more books, in continuing a relationship with, say, with the Beatles?
It's always been brilliant.
Yeah.
DC, they've always been great. I mean, luckily I'm at the stage now where it's not really, it's working with my friend Scott. That's we don't actually. The editor doesn't really. They could doesn't really like the old days. It would be sort of pick something and sort of talk it through, but with Scott's so sort of established that when we do something together, we just doing it together, and then you know, there's very little interaction. But that said, that comes knowing that there's all the support behind us and all the support that DC has in place, and they've all been fantastic. Right from the losers all the way on. And I try not to do interior comics all the time because they're brutal. The deadlines are horrendous. So I did do the issue of Absolute Batman, and we talked on Thursday about doing more, but we talked about getting Witches back running as well. So
okay, that's a couple of pages on there. We are going to get onto Witches. When it comes to talking to your creative team and with your writers, how important is it to speak at some point face to face? Or is, I mean, I can imagine a lot of remote Zoom calls and Skype calls and whatever. But at some point, do you feel that it is great to sit down with your creative and for half an hour and shoot shit?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, my approach has always been to, the people I work with, my friends, basically. Andy Diggle, who's here, Scott. It's for me, I prefer that way of working. Is sit down, like you say. You can figure it out in person. Yeah, it's great. And I go to America 2 times a year and see Scott and 2 or 3 of those.
What is travelling to the States as an artist like happening?
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
absolutely fine. If anything, it's easier. I know there was a lot. I mean, let's not get into it too much. But there was concern last year, and I didn't even have to show my passport.
Whoa.
I just had
Clearly, you had a fan at
well, I mean, what you're here for. I'm here for convention. What do you do? Is there anyone heard of? I draw Batman. It's normally like welcome to America. It's fine, and I know that's a privilege to deal with all that. But still, it's absolutely fine.
I've been wanting to ask this question of a number of artists now, and don't look at me weird when I say it. And this might be a bit long-winded. Bear with me. I wanted to ask this question, say, of guys that work with some very literary and very wordy and very intelligent creatives. Scott Snyder's one, Grant Morrison's another. How important is it for an artist to intellectually keep up with a writer that may require you to pull the psychology 101 handbook down from the shelf? Because I mean, I've read Size for his scripts. I've read some of Scott Snyder's scripts. I've read, and the references are quite in depth. I'm not saying love me on thick, but how smart does an artist have to be to keep up with a demanding writer that knows his way around their philosophy degree?
I might argue that if they're throwing that around, maybe they're not as smart as they think they are.
There you go, that's a nice short answer to a very long question.
But to be fair, no, I mean, it is an artist's job to be appropriate towards what's being written, and that's a given, and you have to be, I love things like subtext and themes and thematic imagery, so I'm down for all that. That's what makes you a good comic. Not what I'm saying, sorry, but that's what makes. No, hang on.
Show of hands who thinks this guy's good.
No, sorry, that's you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
You that's part of the job, and actually that's a really enjoyable part of it. I love you bringing like a book like Witches. It's a horror book. It has to have some weight in there, for it to operate, for it to sort of work. So. But I prefer my first answer.
Also, when it comes to the other work that you're doing, you have been branching out, and I see the Ex Machina piece there.
Well, I was thinking that if we have any questions, whoever asks the best question gets a prize.
Whoa! Right, do you remember when I said that there was a Q&A later? That's going to inspire you to come up with some questions. Good grief. Okay, fair enough. Branching out, and we've had some pieces all around on the screen. One of the first times I met you, was at Lakes, and it was just before, I think, Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And the line that came out of your mouth was, I have just been lined up with Lucasfilm to do the story work, concept artwork for Last Jedi, and I can feel the sniper rifle and the red dot on my forehead as I speak. I'm not saying another word. It's now in the rear window of that particular project. How did you get into that? What was the approach of getting into concept artwork, considering that you have done a great body of work such as Ex Machina, Dread?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I love film as much as comics to start. Originally, I did a book called The Losers with Andy Diggle, and Peter Berg, who was the original writer-director on that, and we met Pete in London in 2005, maybe 06. Got on really well, stayed in touch, got me to do some posters for one of these movies, Hancock after that, they've got one in New York, and then I heard he was working on an adaptation of Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune. And I sort of knew, and I woke up one morning on a Sunday to a missed call, a text, and an email from him because he had seen my Hancock posters around New York, and he was like, dude, kind of thing. But I knew he was working on Dune, so I replied to him and just said, what are you up to? Anything cool I can help with now? And he just said, I'm just starting up Dune. Do you want to do some concept work? And I was just like, yes. I did 6 weeks on that. It was my very first concept work. You can find it online. The film didn't happen. You can find it online. And I just finished, and then I heard the Dread had been greenlit, and I did 3. I was just in concept work mode, and I did 3 pieces of pretend concept work that or what I thought it should look like, and I put one online, and long story short, got picked up as official concept work, and I was horrified. I was absolutely, because that is not cool, And then I got an email from DNA saying, I'm one of the producers on Dread. Can you call us, please? And I was like, oh my god, this is bad. This is really bad. I spoke to Rebellion and said, oh, that wasn't me. It was on my 80 cool stash film, just all the film sites saying, there's a new Dread movie production, and this is how it's going to look, and it looks great. So
thanks, sorry.
But anyway, so I called Michael Elson, who was one of the execs on Dread, and I immediately just like, Michael, hey, it's Jock. Listen, and he goes, oh no, don't worry about that. Yeah, we've seen them, but we like them. Do you want to come up for a meeting? And then I met Alex Garland that day, and that's probably I ended up working on Dread, then Ex Machina, Annihilation. And then for Star Wars, Glyn Dillon, Steve Dillon's brother, was the costume concept artist on Force Awakens, and he had gone on to be actual costume designer on Rogue One. So he couldn't do Episode 8, he couldn't do Last Jedi. And I think probably Ex Machina was sort of, it won an Oscar, for some visual effects, and obviously Ava is part of that. So Ex Machina is pretty respected, and I think he was asked of other people, and he mentioned my name and what I had done, and I went up for a meeting, and so that's kind of how it happened. So, because I love movies, it's like, there's a little bit of luck in there, but also sort of spot your opportunities, and I've always just been hungry to try different things and do different things.
What was the experience of doing? Working with Lucasfilm, especially. Because I can imagine working with Rebellion, working with Alex Garland. It's very much a collaborative thing. What's Lucasfilm like? First up, it was an incredible experience. I was working at Pinewood Studios for 9 months. The first day I go up, there was 4 of us in the end, with me, Chris Weston, who I'm sure you know, Tom Shees on each. She was amazing, operation artist, I think he lives in Canada, and another guy, Rob. And but for the first 2 weeks, it was just me. So the funny thing about this job is you do have moments where it's just like surreal. It's very odd sometimes. Because here I am driving up to Pinewood Studios, like by myself as well. Like I don't have like a team, it's just me, and I arrive at Pinewood, and there's
James Bond stage, and they're building a Millennium Falcon over here, so it's behind a door, and you're not supposed to, you know. It was just the whole. When I used to go for a wee, I had to walk past the Millennium Falcon. And I go in, and it's just me, and it's this really Michael, the costume designer, who was the costume designer on Blade Runner, you know, like amazing. And in this really small little room, and I set up my stuff, and he goes, "Oh, are you ready?" And I said, "Yeah, you know." And internally, I'm just thinking, "What? This is unbelievable." You know? And he goes, "It's your first job," and it was Luke Skywalker. And I was just like, "This is
No pressure.
This is too much." But you know, but also, if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So,
I can imagine as well, you being the first one on in the office as well. You're almost setting up the visual language for the film.
No, not really. No. So my job was specifically costume design. It was heavily directed by Michael. Like he just had the final say. He would give us inspiration, but he wouldn't really tell us what to do. But he'd give us sort of. And just come over and look at it and go, no, and then just walk away again, you know. But to answer your question about what it's like collaboratively, like, you know, I found on the bigger the projects get, the more freedom there is.
Really?
Yeah, because you're hired, because you're in that position because they
know you can.
Well, hopefully, you know. And one of the things I learned on Star Wars is part of that is having initiative, you know. Like, rather than kind of going like, yes sir, and you know, you've got to sort of bring ideas, right? And actually that's what makes the job fun, if you're able to free yourself up and do that, you know. And one of the instances was in Last Jedi. Near the end, Luke has like a force projection. He's like in his eye, like an idealistic Luke Skywalker. And they were going to have him in his Jedi robes. And in fact, there was already some concept work from the production offices that had him in the Jedi robes, and that scene with Kylo Ren. I don't know. I liked him in Return of the Jedi when he was a bit more sort of fitted. He looked like he was a bit more kind of ready for business, you know, and like sort of quite tight, a bit more. It was black. And I just said to Mike, "Well, can I try something?" And I did. Sort of a version of kind of like a black fitted thing mixed with the Jedi robes, you know, and long story short, like sort of for the character of like Benicio del Toro, we all did, there's probably 600 drawings of that guy and with all different, you know, versions and that Luke costume, I think I did 2 versions. Michael said, "Oh, I like that, you know, maybe make the cape a little bit shorter and make the hood a bit tighter, you know." And I think I did 4 or 5 versions of just this one drawing. But I didn't know it was going to be in the film until I was sat watching the film and Luke, because I had finished, and you know, and by that point, and I've got goosebumps thinking about it. Seeing whatever you think of the film, seeing Luke Skywalker walk out in that costume that was like the earlier costume I saw earlier.
Sure, yeah.
That was, you know, that was my sort of direction with that. But that black costume of Luke's was just entirely my idea, and so that's maybe a good answer.
Okay.
You know, because they're totally open.
So it's something that really scratched that creative itch. Is it something you'd like to do again? Is it something you are doing?
Yeah, I'm doing some design for a Batman film right now. It's called Dynamic Duo.
And the red dot in the forehead again.
That's fine. It's been announced. Matt Reeves, who's the director of the Batman live action film, is exec producing, and it's a Batman puppet film, which I got a random email from the director saying Batman puppet film, and you do get emails from all kinds of people. You do, and hey, you know, my name's Harold, and I'm at college in, you know, Tennessee, and I'm, you know, it's like, oh hey Harold, like, you know, whatever. It was Batman puppet film. Okay, what's this? And but it was Arthur Mintz, who's the director. And long story short, again, so I could just talk about it forever. But it's incredible. It's puppetry. But they have a website, Swaybox, they call it, swaybox.com. Look it up, and they've got a showreel of work. And you can see what they're up to. I've never seen anything like it. I'm so excited about it. I think it could be really, really special. Cool.
I think this room, and I can feel it in the air, that they would like me to talk about comics at some point. Sorry, no, that was all me. So we'll kind of, I want to start then with some self-written content you've done. Certainly with like One Dark Night, which I loved that book. Anyone read One Dark Night? It was on the DC Black Label. Gorgeous miniseries, written and artwork by yourself. How did that come about, and also what was you felt that the response to that book was, and how satisfied were you with your writing and taking that creative direction?
Again, it was an amazing opportunity and experience, but I haven't written very much, so it was pretty daunting.
So it was such a tight plot.
I thought so. Well, because I haven't written very much, I deliberately tried to choose a small story and then just tell that well, rather than that. Sometimes when you have writers that are trying to break in and they have, this is my sample and it's a 26, chapter epic, just you've got to sort of walk before you can write kind of thing. So I just tried to choose a small story.
Was this something, because it was released on the Black Label, which was a prestige format for Disney at the time, which they seem to have kind of dialed back on in recent months, if not years. Was it something that was kind of pitched to you as, you are one of our superstar artists, this is something that we want to put as a superstar tentpole book, or was it something that you said, do you have an idea of something that you want to do?
Yeah, it was. So I was friendly with editor Mark Doyle. He was, I knew him from the first day he was at DC Vertigo. He was the assistant to Will Dennis, who was my Vertigo editor on The Losers, who's still my editor now to this day on other projects. But I knew Mark, and Mark had kind of got to the point where he was the Batman group editor, and there was a show in Chicago, and on the first night I just arrived quite late, went there for a drink in the bar, and it was just me and him, and he was just like, what do you want to do? And I just said, I want to write and draw a Batman thing, and he just went, approved.
At which point I had to ask the question, did you have an idea already? Was it oh shit, I've got to come up with something?
Yeah, a little bit. Well, it was more just, it was more realised, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this, So, and it was a few years after that, and Mark didn't end up being the editor on the album, unfortunately. But that's how it happened. So similarly, to me, that's about relationships. You make friends.
Sure.
That's how it's always been.
Is that again something you'd like to do more of? Because, like I say, I felt it worked incredibly well as a written piece of work.
Thank you.
More rights on the cast?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. It's a nice short, sweet answer on this one, but no, I get it.
Nothing on the slate that shit is fun.
Fair enough. The other self-created, or at least something that's in your own rights now, is on the screen, which is gone.
Yeah.
Distillery as a publisher. I'm fascinated by it because it obviously has that image kind of model as a business model, but it seemed to be aiming more towards a Vertigo kind of vibe when it comes to the creatives they got involved. Very Brit-centric for a large amount of the creative talent. And they pitched it very much the case of, you guys are in on the ground floor as co-owners kind of.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and also, do you feel it works? And do you feel it works?
Yeah.
No, it's still works.
Yeah. So that was Chip Boja, who was the guy in Comicsology that I mentioned. He left Comicsology and set up a distillery. It was again a sort of very open, do what sort of thing.
Because the books ended up looking very much like DC Black Label books.
Well,
that prestige format.
Well, Chip took One Dark Night into the printer and said,
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah, literally it's the same size, same format, same.
And how did Gone come about? Because another Great book.
Well, thank you.
Again, anyone familiar with Gone?
It was their launch book, which I was sort of a bit wary of simply because I hadn't written very much. You know, I felt that extra bit of pressure. It was a launch book for the entire company, you know, etc., etc. And then that meant there was a sort of like a time pressure that I would have liked to have not had. You know, and because you know because I haven't written very much, I need to figure it out, sort of thing, you know. And then when you're up against time pressure as well, so I had some late nights there.
How is pressure for you nowadays as a known force?
Yeah.
Back, you know, compared to back in the day, where are you now in terms of? Do you still get a fair amount of pressure by law?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, you just have an internal. It's more sort of internal expectations, I think. You know, you have good days and bad days, and when you have years ago, if you had a bad day, you know, it's almost like when you have a bad day. It's like, yeah, I knew it. I can't draw it. You know, I'm going to be found out. You know, it's an imposter syndrome thing. But now I've been doing it long enough. I know that it's all just ups and downs. You know, that you might have a little lull, that will come back. And,
I saw a clip on The Bear which talked about pressure.
Right.
And it talked about how when you first start, you dread it. You, no pun intended. You definitely feel it's something that you almost want to run away from. But then when you get to a certain point in your career, it's something that you actually crave. It's something that drives you to go.
Yeah, I don't crave it, but I understand that it's an energy, and good work can come from energy. Right? You know, like collaboration. You know, we all heard stories of movies with terrible shoots, and the film's brilliant. You know, so there's something in that. You know, but I don't enjoy feeling anxious about things at all. Like who does? You know, but at the same time, yeah, you know, there's a sort of.
Has the anxiety faded?
No,
it's still there.
Yeah,
definitely at this point.
Okay. Yeah, still down and up all the time. You know, I think, but maybe even that just means that you know, I think
you still got hunger for it.
Exactly. Okay, like there's still striving going on, you know, and so even though that's can sometimes be a bit of work, it's not lost on me that that's a problem. Then no bad thing. I still care.
I do want to talk about witches. I do want to have a couple of quick fire stuff, and I do have some Q&A from a bunch of people here. I'm sure you'll have some questions. However, we have some more gate crashers. We have this gentleman here, Steve Ball from 77. Everybody, can you make some noise, please?
So apologies for the interruption, everybody. But what we do every year, started 2 years ago, is we have Lawless and 77 Hall of Fame awards. Okay, we give out roughly 4 of these a year, and affectionately known as the Lawley. This is a trophy. So I'd like to present Jock with this year's contribution. Yes, sir. There's your lovely trophy.
Wow.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, one of this year's winners. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That kind of accolade must be very satisfying. I mean, is it something that you've gotten used to over, you know, that kind of? Is the imposter syndrome still in full effect?
Yeah, definitely. I'm still stunned that I'm sat here with you guys. You know, every day it's a surprise. But I you know, going back to that thing of kind of I do work really hard, so it's nice that you put that.
The
out
work's
well, no, it's just it feels like it's. I don't know.
Right.
No.
5 more questions from me, and then we'll do some Q&A from you guys. So, while we were talking about self-created content and self-owned content, or at least stuff that you are directly involved in, Witches, which you brought up earlier, which is another book which I'm a huge fan of, which I got introduced to when you brought it to Thought Bubble many moons ago, and we just had no idea what to expect. It was this slap across the face. Brilliant, brilliant book. Again, one more time, anyone familiar with this book? Witches. Not so many hands. There's one or two. This is, I mean, the elevator pitch. It's organic evil in the woods that are more than welcome to take anyone who crosses their path, these demonic forces. It's also something that is being developed as an animation on Amazon Prime. Last time I checked on that, it was due for last year. Where are we with that?
Yeah, so Scott Snyder's the writer, but it's an image book we drew about 10 years ago.
I always like to credit the Matt Hollingworth as well.
Sorry.
Incredible work.
Yeah, it's an animation at Amazon Studios. Scott and I are heavily involved. He's co-show running, co-writing, I'm overseeing the visuals, and we're starting to get final shots in right now. So we've got a cut of episode 1. This like the raw animation, and now it's in that episode is in post-production, which I'm helping with, and that's putting all the.
How's that looking at the moment?
It's good.
I mean, especially, I mean, you say that you're involved in the visuals. Is it drawing directly from your visual style in the books?
They're trying to get as close as possible.
So what's that feel like to see on the screen?
Well, but it's an but an animation that there has to be compromised because there's so many drawings that there's a simplification that happens with it. There's cartooning, right? It's a cartoon. So it's not so much for me. It was trying to nail it, not looking like my drawing, but feeling like the book. So the spatters are in there. I was, I did a lot of shot composition and things like that. So yeah, it's exciting.
Do we have a time frame on that?
Nothing confirmed. My guess would be probably next year.
Okay. So we're talking a little bit more of an extended time frame than what we originally were told.
The animation takes a while.
It does. Last time I checked. Is it something else that you'd like to get into? You'd like to say you love films, filmmaking, film production, or is comics and art still your absolute bread and butter you first?
Yeah, it's been a really good experience with my witches, and I've had a pretty sort of Scott and I, we're in the mix, and
was it something that was kind of on the cards as a adaptation? I mean, obviously you're going to have those rights to hand, either for live action or for film, or an animation. I mean, what was the feeling when you heard that it was being picked up as an animated series?
So I don't have much time, so I won't go into it. But so it was optioned before the book one came out. There was a producer, Sarah Esberg at Plan B, Brad Pitt's production company, who I knew that I did a little bit of work for her. And again, we just stayed friendly. And she emailed me before she would come out and say, "Can you see this?" So that was going to be live action. And then 5 years down the line, the option expired, and that's when we decided to take it into animation.
Right. I think we've got time for 2 or 3 questions, and we've got hands in the air, and we will start with this young lady who was first in the room. So, give us your name and your question, please.
Yeah, so I'm Kayla, great to meet you.
Hi,
So you've created loads of iconic pieces over the years, and even non-comic lovers will kind of recognise your pieces. But what do you think is probably your most underrated piece of work?
My most underrated piece of work?
Yeah.
A piece that you possibly spent a lot of time and thought, you know what, this is
one that you
t-shirt.
think that it should be as iconic, one of your best pieces, but often goes into the garbage.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, the Joker piece is on t-shirts, it's on posters, and there you are thinking, oh, you know what, there's this other piece that I thought would do rather better, or do rather well.
No, because you never know. When I did that, I didn't know it was anything. I thought it was okay, but
It was okay.
No, but really, I'm not. Hopefully, you understand. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I mean, entirely honest. I thought it was okay, and I sent it to Lee Garbett, a friend of mine. We used to share a studio, and I emailed it over. It was nearly done, and I was like, because it's just his head. I was like, should I prop it or like Dutch and prop it a bit or something? And he was like, no, you're fine. you know. And then I sent it to Mike Marks, the Batman editor, on the book. I said, "Oh, how's this looking?" And he said, "Like the greatest comic cover I've ever seen." I'm like, "Hang on, what?"
I hope you expect to see this on the side of a convention box at San Diego, which I saw at 30 foot tall.
It's on everything. I could dress head to toe in it. We could carpet the room.
It was a plan.
Yeah, and and it recently. I saw the original at the time, so it's fine. But it sold recently, and it was it broke all the records for the most expensive piece of modern comic art, and that's from the year 2000 until now. So again, you know, I was just say about surreal moments. It's like, how is something that I've drawn, you know, with that. Sort of, you know, the money doesn't matter. It's not that, but just that sort of. So something that you go out into the world in that way is just it's mind blowing. So there we go.
Question from over here. Go for it. Give your name and your question, please.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I've spent the last 19 years following my lovely husband around, watching you create art. My question is: we've seen you pick up the big giant talking heads. What's the most unconventional thing you've used to create one of your specific text?
Oh, I like that. I did. Absolutely. I did a lot of posters for the company Mondo a few years ago, and I did a poster for The Thing, the John Carpenter movie. And there was loads of alternate The Thing posters, and I thought, and I didn't want to do the job unless I could bring something to it. You know, but that's a sort of that's important for me. I want to do something. And I had the idea of like in terms of arteries and vessels, and I did a figure where all the vessels are sort of like, you know, sort of almost exploding out, and I did that with ink and a straw, like I was a 5-year-old.
Outstanding. Question. We'll go for this gentleman here. Your name and your question, please.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan.
Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah, hi, Jonathan. So last year's talk bubble, you were doing the judging of the contest for the artists.
Yep.
2018, and there was a phrase you used that stuck in my mind. You said that when you're doing comics, you've got to be up to something.
Interesting phrase.
By which I took, you know, something that, you know, looks impactful, that is surprising, what you're in.
Yeah.
Do you strive to do that on every page though? Because there are moments where there's characters in conversation, there's quiet moments. Should we be striving to do that at every page, or how do you?
Pick out your moments.
Don't misunderstand. So the phrase is like, just be up to something. You know, in any creative pursuit, like be up to something. What is it you're doing with it? You know, it's easy to sort of try and fit in and do what's appropriate for whatever you're trying to do. You know, I play music, so I play the drums, and it's like you start like, you know, okay, well, you know, you learn basic things, right? But at some point, you've got to sort of be up to something, to be interesting, for people to connect with it. And don't misunderstand be up to something, meaning it has to be noisy or big. You know, in those quiet moments where they're having a conversation, what are they up to? You know, what's going on? You know, the subtext or behind the scenes, or you know, that's what I mean. You know, always try and like, you know, wring something out of whatever it is, and that doesn't mean noise. You know, the opposite. You can quietly be up to something, and that's arguably stronger, actually. Does that make sense?
We've got 60 seconds, so I'm going to do a couple of quick fire questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
Straight out the gate, soundtrack in the studio. What are you playing when you're working?
Right now, sort of odd, sort of cinematic library Italian music from the 60s.
Interesting. Character outside of the big two you'd still like to draw, or haven't yet?
I've done them all.
You've done them all.
That sounds really arrogant. I didn't mean that. Actually. I've ticked all the boxes. I can't believe it.
I haven't seen you hold it up.
Dread was my favourite character growing up, and that was my first job. You know, Batman, Star Wars. I mean, I can't believe it.
Reading comics. What's your favourite comic at the moment that's not yours?
I read Absolute Batman before doing the job, and I thought it was great fun.
Okay.
I'm very proud of stuff.
Favourite contemporary male and female artist that you feel is doing great work in 2020?
Ooh.
Anything straight?
I still love Bill Sienkiewicz. He's a beautiful man, and he still has the when you talk to him about it all, he still has the enthusiasm of like a 15-year-old style. You know, it's amazing to see. And Elsa
Teterier.
She's great.
Very good artist. Excellent stuff. Yeah, check her out if you get a chance. Distillery or Vertigo?
Both.
Oh, dude. No way to pick one. No way picking one. No, fair enough.
Okay.
You can't help but try. Come on. And last but not least, what is your whiskey of choice?
Dalmore, but I'll leave it at that.
That is what you're going to have to pick up for him when you come spot him in the bar later on. Ladies and gentlemen, we could carry on going because this man is a body of work and I loved every second of this. Can you please put your hands together? But
do you have one? I do not.
wow. Excellent. A lot of these people have been here for the weekend. Sure, they know where you are in the room to find you.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called though. I'm over there.
Over there. Excellent stuff. There are many other panels that are taking part in this room. I'm going to be back later for a writers panel, which is going to be rather interesting with Ben Adams in Edgerton and KW. So that's going to be cool. Come and join us if you can. Come and see some more of the panels. Enjoy the rest of Lawless, everybody. Thank you so much indeed.